So the crosscut sled should handle 90% of the square cuts that you need to make, but every once in a while you're going to need to cut some larger pieces that won't fit on it. If you're cutting a tabletop or even large sheet goods, a lot of times it won't fit in the sled. So what I do is use a panel cutting sled instead. Similar to a crosscut sled, but with two major differences. It doesn't run on two runners like a sled does, it only runs on one. And when you put your fence in, your fence will be on the front of the jig, so your work will go here and you'll push against the fence rather than registering the work against the fence here. So making this sled is real similar but a little easier than making the crosscut sled. We're going to start with the runner already cut to size, and again just mark a center line at front and back. Pull a straight line and drill a couple of holes to lock the runner in place. You see I've got the fence here. The base I'm starting with is square already. We've located the fence to keep this square or parallel to the blade, and we're actually covering up the kerf mark where the blade comes through, because after we make the sled, we're actually going to run it through the blade and cut it off here. So I'll just drill a couple of holes and get the runner locked in place. I've got this pre-drilled and I'm just putting the last couple of screws in. Once that's tied down, you can go ahead and remove your fence. It's only going to get in the way at this point. And like we did before, I had just a couple of pennies holding that runner up off the bottom of the groove. So before we attach the fence, we want to go ahead and cut this off using the runner in the groove so we know what this cut's going to be and what the actual cut will look like. Now, very similar to what we did with the crosscut sled, I'm just going to grab a framing square and square up the fence to the actual cut line here. I'm going to let this hang over again, and again we can just cut that off with the next cut. Like we did, I'll pre-drill the first hole, one for the last. Attach this first screw, adjust it for square, and then tie the last screw in. Put the first screw in place. Put the long edge of the framing square against the fence. Square up the other side against the kerf line. And then drive a screw at the end of your fence. As we did before, we'll make a test cut, see how square it is. If it works, we'll drive the rest of the screws in and call it square. And you'll see, unlike the sled, the crosscut sled, I'm pushing against the fence here. Take our framing square and see how close we got. Looks like we got lucky this time. It's perfectly square. So what I'd do at this point, go back, add a few screws here just to make sure this doesn't get knocked out of place over time. And I also like to add a taller fence here. It's not really necessary as far as the cut goes, but as you get into bigger pieces, cutting larger panels, it can get a little unwieldy. It's nice to have something in place here so that you can clamp it down and push from back here and not have to worry so much about it wiggling on you.